Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special edition of The Secret Podcast. Now, this is not our normal podcast. This is something that we are trying out going forward. From time to time, new information comes to light, which outdates previous information that we've told you. And enough of it has built up over time where we felt an update of sorts was needed. We also wanted to introduce this special report format, so when big news happens from time to time, like somebody maybe pulls a cask up, we will now do a special report, which will be shorter than the normal podcast, and we'll cover news, current events, online happenings, and anything else secret related that we're not going to put in our normal podcast. Joining me, as always, from St. Augustine, Florida, is Secret Podcast co-host George Ward, and also we're coast to coast tonight with Matt Sparks out in California, where the weather is usually nice when it isn't on fire or out of water. Thanks for joining me, guys. So the way we're going to do this is kind of a round table format. Everybody can bring something to the table, and if they don't have anything, then they can just pass or whatever. Let's start with news. George, do you got anything newsworthy that you wanted to talk about?
John Michael Spavanka passed away Saturday, April 3rd, 2021. He was 47 years old. He held a special place in the secret community. Everybody that you see here today, he brought together. He was a powerful figure that loved this community and this puzzle as much as anyone. Thank you for joining us today as we share our memories of John. It's kind of an informal thing. We're just talking today. Thank you for coming. Bradley, it's all your show, man.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for taking time out to come and help memorialize John Michaels. Obviously, he was a very important person and touched many lives in many different ways. I think a quote that Brian Zinn once used to describe his friendship with Andy, I think truly comes into play here. And that quote is, "True friends are harder to find than buried treasure." And John Michaels definitely helped hundreds, if not thousands of people find those true friends and family members. So we've brought everybody together. We have, I think, 4 or 5 different Facebook groups that are coming together to remember John as well. We have here live Matt Sparks from San Francisco, Brett from Oakland, Dustin and Deidre from the Northwest, Washington, and we have Miss Joellen Trilling from New York, and of course everybody knows Mr. George Ward from Florida and myself from North Carolina. So like George mentioned, this is going to be very informal, very the schedule's very fluid. We're not we're just here to remember John. So Joellen, we want to be respectful of your time. We know that you're a very busy person, and we don't want to hold you longer. And thank you so much. I know John meant a lot to you, and if you would like to say anything, please feel free. If not, that's okay. Whoever wants to.
I can set that up for you, Joel. And I remember before we ever sent you a message, before John ever sent you a message to come and do the podcast, we spent, you probably don't know this, we spent like a month and a half trying to figure out how to ask you. He held you in such high regard. He was like, he pored over every single word of that email. He didn't want to get anything wrong. And I got to ask you, this book was 40 years before you got that message. What was getting that message like? What ran through your head?
That there are plural universes. It seems as though something continues without anybody knowing about it, or anybody that was maybe involved in it. And I was absolutely floored that all of you are doing what you do. And to be able to speak with John Michaels was so sweet to me. He was so lovely. And, normally I don't interact with strangers, but he was so kind and so knowledgeable. He told me about all of you going and doing all the different, interacting with each other and helping each other. And it was amazing to me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm still bowled over. It was really hard to hear his voice because I remember telling him that he had a great voice. And he,
Yeah,
it was a pleasure to listen to him.
He had a radio voice, that's for sure.
He had a radio voice, and the podcasts about the other ones that he did about music and being on the road, or they were wonderful to listen to.
Yeah.
Also, so I didn't know anything about anything, so it was a revelation, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah, John's voice was one of the first things after Expedition Unknown that brought me into The Secret, and many, many other people. That's when I discovered The Secret podcast before I knew anybody here. And each episode, I couldn't wait to hear John go, "It's an alligator." And that just that little quip just made me laugh and smile every time. His voice was always able to bring joy to many, including myself. I agree 100%.
He had an iconic. It was hard to hear that first part. I agree with you. And it was shocking.
Yeah,
actually, because it's
Imagine sitting there for an hour cutting it together.
George, you had to play that. Oh, ouch!
It was hard,
but
man. It was hard.
He was like the Casey Kasem of this. I mean, just instantly recognizable and smooth. Never stuttered or said he just nailed it. He prepared for weeks before doing anything. Just like the email that he wanted perfection, and he wanted things to be a certain way, and it just goes to show you what a stickler for details he was.
Yeah, true professional.
Yeah,
that was some amazing times back then. I just remember it was so stressful. Like, George, we're gonna talk to Joe Ellen. What? Don't say anything. Don't cuss. Like, that was his big thing. Don't cuss. Don't cuss in front of Joe Ellen. That was fun.
The Maitre Demon interview that you set up with John was a very special time as well. A lot of people really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
The Maitre
Very
Demon.
clever. It was very clever.
He did a good job. He did a great job with that.
Yeah, I remember when we were going over how he was going to ask you. He wanted at first. So when he first started doing the tribute, he got with Kit, and they figured out that Kit was going to paint a painting, and then Kit had a friend who was a sculptor, and he was going to have the sculptor friend just like make a cask. And then as soon as you said that you were going to do the interview, he was like, "I wonder if Joe Ellen has one. Like, maybe I can just buy one from Joe Ellen." And then just to have you, like, I don't think you understand how amazing it is when someone just hands you a cast that you've been looking for 40 years. You can just have it.
I know how amazing it is when somebody hands you something that's really special. Personally, George.
It was amazing. It was awesome for him, especially.
I remember when he put pictures on Facebook of receiving that cask with no explanation. And that night, I was like, "What the heck? What happened?" He pulled a good one on the community that night, for sure.
Yeah, definitely always the jokester.
Yeah.
No question about that.
Yeah, that was a crazy night. He put me in PR mode really quickly. He was like, "George, I just posted a picture of the cast. Go fix it." Oh, okay.
Well, it was perfect. Fun. He did it perfectly. Even though, like, it hit me in the heart where I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like,
he literally didn't sleep.
I did not sleep that night. So I was like, "What the heck happened? I need more information." And he and you were content with letting it go overnight. Next morning, like, it hit me in the heart where I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like,
he literally.
I did not sleep that
Feedback.
night. I was like, "What the heck happened? I need more information."
I think one of us might have the stream on without it being muted somewhere.
Go overnight. Next
We got a little bit of an echo.
That's Matt. I just muted Matt.
Hello, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
So yeah, Sorry, that was confusing. So yeah,
We're live. It's all good.
If James was here, that wouldn't have happened because he is the
No.
professional.
Jeez,
And
No.
this is the way we do it.
if you only knew the prep for the first podcast, it was crazy.
Oh, Brett, you were talking about a story about how stickler he was for equipment and about the Guitar Center. Will you share that?
Yeah. So the four of us. So it was me, JM, George, and Rachel. Spent a weekend in New Orleans together to go dig, and we were going to do they were going to do a podcast there. And not only did we spend the weekend in New Orleans together, but we spent the weekend in the same room. So we decided, and I'm not sure why we did this in retrospect, but we decided to get one room with like 2 full-size beds. And so it was our hunting headquarters, and I think I have a picture of it I'll show later, but it was also the podcast headquarters. So when he picked me up at the airport, he brought, nowadays when you do a podcast or something, you can just like jump in front of your computer, hook up a mic, you're good to go. He brought an entire carload of equipment that not only, so I could barely fit in the car, but we had to lug all of it up and set up this huge like podcast studio, and but he realized that he was missing a mic stand or something like that. So we spent the first 5 hours when we were waiting for George and Rachel in New Orleans, going from store to store, audio store, to get the perfect whatever he needed, you know what I mean? And he stormed out of I'm not gonna lie, he stormed out of a couple of them. He had a bit of a temper, but in retro, and we did that at a Kinko's too. He stormed out of there because we wanted to print a big poster of the New Orleans like verse and image, and he but in retrospect, I think about that and I'm like, the guy, like, what band wouldn't want him running their sound? I mean, you need somebody that's spot on and detailed and just obsesses over all of that stuff.
It was perfection with John.
That's what
100%.
He was like.
Yeah. I remember
that
that
too. He spent all day setting up for the podcast, by the way. We were out drinking. I think. And he was
I remember that he had it was like a 10-channel mixer or something, and there were wires everywhere. It was like, there was just the two of us, and there was like 4 mics for some reason. It was crazy. And he did all this while we were out drinking.
Yeah. And I got caught in the wires, and you guys couldn't find me for like 4 hours.
I remember like he lost a splitter, and he made us walk from Lafayette Square all the way to CVS to try to find an audio splitter at like 10 o'clock at night or something. It was crazy.
Right.
But yeah, that was great.
My wife and I were at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they had this giant soundboard that was used in the recording of his famous album. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, oh, James would like this. And I took a photo of it and I sent it to him. And he's like, oh, that's a piece of crap. That's let me tell you what a good soundboard looks like.
Totally. He'd get you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those live music guys, everything rides on them. I mean, if something messes up, like Firefall, you can't hear Firefall.
The first place you met JM, Brett, was at it was like a Styx concert or something he was at, right? He was working a Styx concert?
He got us backstage to Styx.
Yeah.
Those are the Domo Arigato guys, right?
Yeah.
I love Styx.
The Mr. Roboto people, but he got us backstage, fed us, gave us all, treated us like band members. He had never even met me before. And he's like, hey, if you're a friend of George, you're a friend of mine, and it was insane. I'm like, I've never done anything like this before.
I really pissed him off, because not really, I guess, but that trip, because I brought a bottle of some kind of rum from where was that from? It was from like Aruba or something. Tortuga rum that you can't get in America, and I brought it for Brett, and I brought JM a giant bottle of Fountain of Youth water, and I handed this rum to Brett. I handed this water to JM, and he's like, I got water? Like, I just got you backstage to Styx. You brought me water? I was like, I thought you would appreciate it more, man. I don't know.
Terrible
Yeah.
tasting water at that.
Yeah. But at least we all got to drink the tortuga rum.
We mixed them together.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
It was delicious.
That's definitely the youth mixture.
Yeah.
Dustin, you recently went on some trips with JM and shared some of that with the community. You want to tell us about some of your adventures?
Well, yeah. I've only met John twice in person. First time was with Deidre. He was coming through town on a gig, doing some sound work for, I don't remember, Valerie June, I think.
Yeah,
and
sweet lady.
So
Sweet lady.
he offered us backstage passes and stuff, but we have kids and hard to coordinate that kind of stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
We did manage to squeeze in a dinner with him, and it was great.
That was fun.
So we got to hang out with him, and for a long time, when I first met basically any of you guys, John and I didn't really get on well together. Like
That's a good way to
I didn't like him very much. He didn't like me very much, but we overcame all of that. And sitting down with him in person was really, really cool because he inspired me listening through the first couple episodes of that podcast of looking at the puzzle as a whole. Like I was a person that just went and I was trying to look at every individual puzzle and keep it separate. And maybe that's the way it works. I don't know. Maybe it is a big whole puzzle. I don't know. But we wouldn't have ever done our shadow thing without John, to be honest. And without you too, George. You guys, the first 2 or 3 episodes of that podcast were like super, we were really, I don't know, they made an imprint on us, right?
Yeah.
And so, meeting John in person, though, was a great time. Very wonderful, lovely guy. Loves the puzzle. And
Yeah, it was a big part of our journey. Ironically, when we were driving down to San Francisco in our rented minivan with our giant pole to be down there on the summer solstice in order to cast our shadow and build like this fake replica. We drove from Washington and talked to him actually most of the way as he was reading the book by Bamber, Quest for the Golden Hair, and got into it, and he said if there was one thing that came really good out of it that he wanted to get across was looking at the puzzle as a big picture, just seeing things as a big picture. And he says, knowing that you guys got that and that someone's doing that and we're having those conversations, that was worth it. And that meant a lot to us. When we had lunch with him, we actually had him sign our book because those who have been really important to our treasure seeking secret journey, and he was just like, no, I'm not important. We're like, no, actually you're a really big part of where we are.
Let's see if
and
I can
our journey along the way. So it's really been special to us. And now that we're looking at the big picture without him, it just kind of hit hard.
Yeah, it says digging is the hardest part. Keep up the good work. John Michaels.
So all
He's
those that we have met and have been a big part, we try to get them to sign our poor ragged book.
Yeah, maybe I'll need to go around the screen and get all of you guys to sign it one day. But so this most recent trip with John, or that I had met up with John, we went to Lake Park. Or actually, I flew into Chicago and met up with Rob Robel, famous Chicago cask finder, and we drove to Milwaukee. We met up with John that night. Went to Lake Park. I got eaten alive by mosquitoes. Like I had, they loved the taste of me, I guess. And but I showed him where I was thinking. He's like, "Hey, I'll bring a shovel tomorrow." And so he does that for me.
You're used to doing it with me.
Yeah, well, as long as
I overpack, okay?
Yeah, but we filled in the thing.
You did a good
it looks
job.
beautiful. It's fine. But it was just a wonderful, wonderful time because we actually had breakfast with him the following morning, and he brought his tribute cask, or actually Joe Ellen's cask, and it was one of the most amazing experiences of my entire life. Top 10 moment holding that thing, gazing in wonder at it, and then we headed over to Lake Park again, and we just had a wonderful time. Man, he is a joy to be around. I don't know how else to say it. He was maybe a little rough around the edges, especially when you first meet him. And first start talking to him online or something, he could be rough around the edges. But I loved every moment that I interacted with the guy after we got over our tiffs.
Well, and what a lot of people don't know is you actually had a lot of time interacting because you were working on a project together.
Yeah. So John and I were going to actually begin another podcast about The Secret. And it was like we had already recorded the first episode. And it wasn't like a competing thing, really. It's just like a complimentary thing, kind of like how John H is doing now with his live streams and with Phil. It was more of just, hey, let's just talk about The Secret. Let's have some fun. We did some live streams too. We had a good time with it. Here, I'll go ahead and share with you just the sound clip that we were going to use to close the show. It's not John Michael's voice, but I'll go ahead and share it because I think it's kind of fun and you guys might get a kick out of it. I'm just going to hold it up to the mic. Is that fine?
Do the outro?
Yeah. All right. Let's hear it.
Thanks for listening to Secret Podcast, hosted by John Michaels and Dustin White. We are not affiliated with the website 12 Treasures, Clapper, MC Hammer, My Sleep Pillow, Reebok Pumps, or anything colored in mauve or fuchsia. Secret Podcast is full of vitamins, contains no trans fat, has 0 calories, no additives or preservatives. It's all natural, farm to table, and is organically sourced to provide you with the maximum entertainment. Join in the conversation on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/The Secret A Treasure Hunt, all one word.
I feel like John wrote that script.
Yeah,
Am I right?
I gotta get a copy of that.
And it wasn't, I think it's more of him getting over any kind of beef he had with other people, because it's more of like a friendly, more joke than really sticking it. Because
that was a conversation we had.
Yeah,
we're done.
Yeah, and he I think he was mostly getting over all the any kind of back stuff. But when I heard that, I just couldn't help but to giggle and laugh and smile. And it was going to be called Secret Podcast. So
Nice. I wish you guys could have been affiliated with MC Hammer, though. That would have been even better.
He's too legit to quit, man.
So it is what it is. Yeah. So maybe someday I'll edit that podcast because I have all the audio from it, and we'll put it out, and it'll be something fun to listen to down the road.
Please
absolutely. Please do. Absolutely.
It'd be hilarious. If you want, I'll host it on 12 Treasures. We'll just throw it on the podcast feed.
You have to leave the non-affiliate.
No, you gotta know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, leave that on there. That'd be phenomenal.
Yeah.
I say we do that someday.
We laugh.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for everybody I've ever spoken to about John, I think you hit the nail on the head that he has had a huge heart, cared a great deal about The Secret, cared a great deal. He was just a great human, but he was also a very honest human, and he would say how he felt, and he didn't care how you felt about that, and I respect that 100%.
Yeah. That is the thing John did.
Over a lot of that stuff, so
yeah,
kept things very interesting for everybody.
Yeah.
Brett, you were talking about your guys' trip to New Orleans, and you talked about the different audio stores, and I remember there's a story about breakfast.
Oh God.
And I love that story, but I was not there. I would really appreciate it if either you or George can tell that story.
Oh,
George tells it better.
Oh God, I've been trying to figure out how to tell it. Like, it's one of those you had to be there. So okay, so that whole trip. We recorded that podcast super late at night. It was like we were done at like 2:00 in the morning, and then me and Brett and Rachel, like John's very professional. So at 2:00 in the morning, he went to bed, and me and Brett and Rachel are not so professional. So we went back out to Bourbon Street and we stayed out until 4:00 in the morning, whatever. We came back in, got a little bit of sleep, and then John wakes up because he's professional and ready to go. And he he wants breakfast. And what John really, really wants more than anything in the world is Bananas Foster. Like, he's been talking about Bananas Foster every hour we're in New Orleans. He brings it up. I gotta go get Bananas Foster. I have to have a king cake. I have to have Bananas Foster and beignets. That was it. So breakfast comes up and we have to go get Bananas Foster. We walked down, I forget where it was. It was some random side street where we found a restaurant that on their menu was Bananas Foster. John's like, I don't care. I'm gonna go here. Tiny little hole in the wall restaurant. I don't even know the name of it. It was legit just a little hole in the wall down a side street. We go and we sit down in this cramped little, it's almost like a closet, this place, and they fit like 15 people into it. And this old lady comes out. You have to imagine New Orleans. Like, if you've never been to New Orleans, it's going to be difficult to understand this, but if you have, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So she's an African-American lady. She's probably 80 years old. She's like a grandma. Just walks up and she takes our order. We all order like mimosas and breakfast, and John, he so wants Bananas Foster. And he says, I want the French toast. And we were all like, what? You want a Bananas Foster? You got French toast. Okay, whatever, you want French toast now. So we're talking, the lady takes her order, she leaves, we're talking. She comes back and she gives everybody breakfast, and she sets in front of John French toast. And John's like, ma'am, I wanted the Bananas Foster. And the waitress is like, but son, you ordered French toast. He's like, but I meant Bananas Foster. Like, oh. You expect me to know what you mean? Like, she was joking with him. She was like, you expect me to read your mind? We're in New Orleans, voodoo capital of the world. I can't read your mind. If you want Bananas Foster, you have to tell me you want Bananas Foster. You tell me French toast, I brought you French toast. And John's like, but we're in New Orleans. Why would I want French toast? He's like, I have no idea why you would want French toast. Like, I would want Bananas Foster, but that's what I would order. And this went on for probably 10 minutes where John was trying to be polite, and this lady had a smart ass thing to say. It got so bad that by the middle of it, me and Brett were just sitting there like, just hit him, just hit him. It's going to be great. Everybody's going to fight. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And since then, every time we talked to John, we would ask him if he had Bananas Foster, and he hated that. They came out some ice cream company came out with Bananas Foster ice cream, and we used to like text him pictures of it just constantly. Just here's your Bananas Fosters, John. It was you had to be there moment, but it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. It was hilarious.
He definitely ordered.
He did.
French toast.
He ordered French toast, and she brought him.
Andy has joined us. Hey, Andy.
Yay. Hey. He's not on audio.
He's connecting. But like, who in the right, like,
what is Bananas Foster?
What is Bananas Foster? Yeah,
I don't even know what that does.
Sounds like
I had never heard of Bananas Foster until I heard that story.
I haven't heard of it since I was like 4 years old.
That was I had to look it up. I think I'd be good without the bananas and just have the Foster.
What's the Foster though?
Ice cream and rum.
Yeah.
With bananas.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what I was at the grocery store that evening after I heard that story, and there was in the freezer, and I was like, Bananas Foster's ice cream. I'm gonna try this, and it was delicious.
It's probably the same ice cream we used to torment John with.
Andy, can you hear us?
Oh, look, it's Andy's face.
There he is. It's Andy live.
Andy.
Hey guys, thanks for squeezing me in. I appreciate it.
Of course, Andy, you have the floor. Please go ahead. I know you have some time constraints.
So what people have asked, Andy, someone asked in the comments if we'd talk about how we met John. Would you mind just talking about how you met John? Oh, Brian's here too. Yay.
I don't go anywhere without Brian.
Those two guys.
Would you guys mind just touching on how you met John?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the breakfast story. I think I just learned something else about John. He's a guy I like to have breakfast with you because I remember we're going back years, and he reached out to me, and I didn't get a lot of calls or notoriety. It was when somebody called me up to say they wanted to meet because they had seen me or knew about what we had done in Cleveland. I remember I called Brian and said, Brian, I got this kind of stalker guy who's kind of reaching out and he wants to get together, and I don't know. And Brian's like, well, meet him in daylight. And I said, okay, because he's going to take my kidney. Like, what's he going to do? Like, what are you going to talk to me about? I don't know. So he said he was passing through, had a lot of enthusiasm, and said, I said, how about breakfast? And he jumped at it. So we met at the Waffle House in Edgewater, New Jersey. I was supposed to be there for, I want to give myself an out that I had court that morning. And we wound up chatting for an hour and a half. I mean, I couldn't get enough of it because he was like, I think for anybody who did this, he was a big kid, right? In a grown-up's body. And he just wanted to be there and soak up the discussion. And, I thought it was amazing. And it was such a social interaction because you started the podcast tonight, and by the way, brilliantly, with his voice. And then you used that quote that's so special between me and Brian about friendship. And there was a very instant spark. And John, I felt like sometimes gave me a little bit too much credit as sort of an elder that I had found a cast. And so he would invite me in to groups of you guys, some of the most just smart, creative people, and would call me and talk. And sometimes I didn't feel like I was really deserving of all the recognition, but John would look at an object and would see it 3 different ways. And then the next time you looked at it again, he saw it a different way again. So I think it's an amazing way to go through life looking at things. I think that, I'm sorry, I got a little emotional for a second. I think that when I saw the other day that he had passed, I immediately called Brian because I couldn't understand it. Just couldn't wrap my brain around it. And I said, oh my God, this is like the first time that we've experienced any tragedy in connection with this. This had been a magical ride from day one. It's always been the fairy tale and the extension of the fairy tale. And it's been so up and so beautiful and so great and so many great people and all positive memories. And then I stopped for a second and I said, wait a second, that's not entirely true. We experienced an awful tragedy after finding the cast and getting to meet Byron and just, floating on a cloud. And then only a few months later, the news that he died in a car accident. And it didn't make sense. And it should never have happened because the fairy tale doesn't end that way. And so John kind of picked up and he took what we were all doing and he took Byron's notion, I think, that you should walk around and you should pay attention and look at all the beauty in the world and look at all the details. And in each one, you find treasure. Whether you find the X that marks the spot or not, you do. And John took it to a different level. I think John introduced the social component to this. Here's a guy I didn't know. I knew Brian. And we get on anonymous chat boards and we'd write. But he made it personal. He met me for breakfast. He would call and talk about theories and listen to mine and did, inspired in ways, but inspired to do it collaboratively through friendship. And that was another component to this that was sheer genius and brilliant. His his inspiration to bring as many good people together to participate in this together, to see the people behind the board names and get to see their faces and know them as people, and share a laugh or a theory, in a way. When he invited me in, I felt he was like Superman. He was inviting me into the Justice League, but he was kind of at the head of the table in a way. And George, I know we did it with you, and every time I got interviewed, it was a thrill. I mean, I'm a 54-year-old guy getting interviewed on a podcast. I still don't understand it, but it's taking it to that level and making it social and introducing the concept of doing this with friends was a missing component that has made this hunt that much more valuable. So I think we all have him to thank for that, because beyond his enthusiasm and his intellect, which was spectacular, he made it very personal for me and for a lot of us. And he will be very much missed.
Very well said, Andy. Andy's always a better talker than I am. So, yeah, John Michaels would send Andy and I lots of different emails and texts with his insight or take on different things. And I said, oh, that's really interesting. And, we'd go down different paths. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
can
we
you
can
hear
still
me,
hear you.
guys?
Yeah.
I don't know why I just lost video. But John would, and John got a whole bunch of people together in our little group and I thought it was an ingenious thing to do. Instead of just putting things up on the board and the bulletin board, he would get people together and in a group where we can chat and go through the puzzles and the things like that. It was after that, several months after that, that I finally got to meet John in person. And that was wonderful when I saw John in person, because he was a sound engineer for these various bands. I've met John in person about 5 times, all down here in Florida. And the first time I met him, I brought the cask with me from Cleveland, and he was just amazed. I'm not sure. I think that was the first time he saw a cask up close. Yeah, John's like a kid, just like me and Andy, because I think we're pretty much kids at heart as well. And he's going to be missed. It's just a tragedy. I'm sure a lot of people have said that already, but for me, it's a very sad occasion. And I really appreciated knowing John and being friends with John. The story that he liked to tell is that I really got him very, very drunk a couple times because he didn't know that I can't get drunk. And so we just drank 1 glass each time, and he had a great time, and I did too. And I'm always going to cherish those memories. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing it. Yeah, you kind of had him at a disadvantage there. Jam was a bit of a lightweight when it came to drinking. He didn't drink a whole lot.
That's right.
No. So yeah, it was. Oh man, those days back when the groups first started, that was amazing. Like the little first work group that we all had. You remember that? Like that was so much fun. Everybody just sitting around and 9 times out of 10 we weren't even talking about the puzzle, which was great. It was just getting to know everybody, it felt like a family.
I know Andy is restricted on his time. So what I propose that we do, since we have everybody on that's going to be on the Zoom, is we were wanted to do a toast to JM. I think this might be a good time to do that. So unless anybody feels differently, of course, if anybody wants to participate, prepare a glass of water, a glass of your favorite bourbon, a glass of an IPA, I think was one of John's
things,
favorites, a soda, whatever you like. Give you a few moments to do that if you need to. And we can just go kind of round robin in no particular order. I would just like to say, John, thank you so much for introducing me to the friends and family that I now have. I owe that to you. Thank you.
I don't want to go right now. Somebody else go. Brett, you go.
I'll lift a glass because I'm going to have to go in a little while. But
thank you.
I thank him so much for introducing me to all of you. I really appreciate you all, and I really appreciated John a lot. I still do. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think he was he got us all together, right? A lot of us, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to pressure anybody, so we'll move forward. Joellen, do you say you have to go?
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us in memory and remembering John.
My total pleasure. I mean, keep me in the loop, please.
Of course.
It's such a joy. I can't tell
absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Good night.
Thank you, man.
Good night.
Yeah, guys, I have to go too. And I'm sorry that for some reason, my video stopped working when I started talking.
That's quite all right, man. No worries.
That's okay.
No problem, Brian.
We just assumed you were sitting in a you turned the lights out and you were sitting in a dark room.
Yeah.
Well,
all right, guys.
Brian and Andy, thank you so much for joining, gentlemen.
Okay.
Andy, you are muted, and when you
Andy's gonna
Go
try
ahead.
to.
I can hear you.
Andy with technology.
There you are.
There you go.
Yeah, I want to say thanks again for always being so kind to us and letting us participate in all of this. The fact that you threw this together as quickly as you did and are doing such a wonderful job with it, again, is a testament to the talent and creativity in this group and how much we all cared for and loved and will miss John. I do have to leave. I have the YouTube site. I will be going back to watch the recording because I don't want to miss one story from any of you. So, and if anything, I feel more committed than ever to somehow finding or digging up that cask, even if it be in New York, and when I do or we do, dedicating it to his memory. Because the one thing he deserved that I always wanted, I wished, was that he had the exhilaration of lifting it out of the ground and have that feeling, because he certainly worked as hard at this as anybody that I know, and he deserved that. So we're just going to have to do that for him. Okay, so guys, enjoy the rest of the podcast. You guys are fantastic, and I'll check back in and watch it later.
Have a good night, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Brian.
All right, take care, guys.
Yeah.
Brian.
Bye.
Later, Andy.
Boy, those guys are eloquent. I wish
Andy.
Dude,
This is why everybody always remembers Andy as the Andy and Brian, because he's always he's got a way with words. He's wonderful. He's so eloquently spoken.
Silver tongued or whatever he say. Just extremely well spoken. But I
love both those guys.
Me too. And I wouldn't know any of you or them, even as little as I do some of you, without John, and the one thing the common thing that I'm hearing is that he was like this Peter Pan, it's like I feel like I'm living in Joellen said it best, that there's this parallel universe going on, and John lived in that 24/7. That's where he existed. I imagine him, everything that he was doing, he was probably also going through The Secret and going through theories and trying to solve things and thinking about things and considering, little theories that we'd throw out there, and because he'd hit you up 2 weeks later and he'd go, hey, that thing that you said about Rono, here's what I think about that. You know what I mean? And just he was like a Peter Pan, and we're living in his Neverland, and
I like that.
I've always been into puzzles, and I think you guys know me pretty good at this point. I'm kind of a kid at heart. I don't know that I'm ever going to mature past 13, but he made that okay. He was the living and breathing, like he was the human form of where I've been living. I just didn't realize there were other people out there like that. And the fact that he was so myopic about this thing, I was like awestruck by him, like that somebody can just, this is the thing that I like, and this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to bring you guys in, and I'm going to go find the finders, and I'm going to go find the creators, and I'm going to bring everybody together. And now we all live, we're all living, look at us. We're all living in a world he created. And it's, man, it's a good one. Thank you, John.
Hey, Matt, how'd you meet John? Because you guys met up a couple of times, right?
Oh, yeah, we met in person a bunch of times. But I've been trying all night to remember what his quest for treasure.
Decibel NYC.
Decibel NYC. So for years, I'd been having conversations with Decibel NYC. And then we'd talk New York, we'd talk San Francisco. It didn't matter what. He was one of the more knowledgeable people on the on Quest for Treasure. And about 2014, some guy named John Michaels calls me on phone. How he got my number, I don't know. Calls me on the phone and says, hey, I'm putting together a basically secret club where just a few people will be in, and we're going to use, and he set up, he and some other people set up the Secret Sandbox, which still exists on Facebook. I was looking at it. And he's still got a lot of posts in there. And he basically, he and the other people were picking and choosing who they wanted to bring in and just chat about things. And his whole point was, I want to move the hunt forward, whatever it takes to move the hunt forward. And I was like, great. And so I will admit it was probably 6 months before I caught on that John Michaels was Decibel NYC, and I was having two simultaneous conversations, separate conversations with him at the same time. So I'm like, wait, that's you? So, and then out of the blue, he calls me up, says, I'm in San Francisco, and I'm about 2.5 hours from San Francisco. And I was like, give me 2.5 hours and meet me at the Legion. And so drove out there, and he was puffing on a vape, just this cloud around him when I pulled into the parking lot. And it was so cool because up to that point, anybody who you met, you basically had to explain the secret to them if you wanted to talk about it. But he was like telling me stuff I didn't know, and and it was great. And we drove all over San Francisco that day, and we covered everything in Golden Gate Park. We covered everything at the Legion. We were up to Coit Tower. and just it was the drive we had was just amazing, and nonstop talking about everything from from his sound stuff to The Secret and just San Francisco in general, and who he was, what he did. It was great getting to know him. Many other times we just pre-arranged to meet in San Francisco on a certain date or time. Usually started with bagels for breakfast. So he had a favorite bagel place down on Clement, and we'd meet there. And hey, Kit, and then we did, I'm going to say, 5 or 6 digs together in various places around San Francisco, some of which were my idea, some of which were his idea, and some of which were ideas that other people asked him to check out. So, we were doing all kinds of stuff like that. And then one day he said, if you could dig absolutely any place, and by this time, permits were required for everything, and I was like, "Oh, I have a list of 7 things I wanna dig," and he called me back that night and said, "Okay, here's your permission for digging all 7 spots," which was amazing. He'd worked with the people in San Francisco, he'd worked with the people at EU, and gotten permission to do 7 digs in one day, and so we spent that day digging. It was great. It was, I'm thinking it was 2014, 2015, back when he first contacted me. And The Secret hasn't been the same since. It was a few people, 30, 40 people on Quest for Treasure. It was maybe 10 people on the Secret Wiki. The Secret Wiki's maxed out. Quest for Treasure, I think, is maxed out. It's amazing, and all of the growth in The Secret, really, he's under all of it. He pushed it all along, so it wouldn't be the same hunt without him. He was going to meet me last we talked. He was going to meet me in Houston this summer, and we were going to try and dig in Houston. So him, me, and Mark. So
I'll come meet you, man.
That's fine. If Mark says it's okay, I'll let you come.
Company.
Yeah.
Mark and I have a video game date scheduled.
Oh,
all right, cool.
Doom VR.
I've always wanted to go to Houston.
I think I was just thinking.
Yes.
Like,
if you want to, yes, of course you can.
Yeah, and then you can get that pie. The Boston pie.
Kit, welcome in.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here. So thanks for doing this and organizing this, and taking care of a lot of stuff that is probably behind the scenes that I don't know what's happening. So I appreciate all you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all just kind of sharing our stories about how we met John and how he's touched our individual lives, and it's a very fluid format. So if any point you want to share a story or an anecdote or anything at all, just feel free.
Okay, all right.
I gotta ask though, Kit. I remember the first time John told me he contacted you. He said that he had talked to you when you were like 15 or something, 15 or 16. Or young, I don't remember. And my first comment was like, dude, why are you randomly like messaging teenagers on Facebook? Like, how was? Man. I asked Joellen this, but I really want to get your perspective. How was that conversation to get a message from some dude about something you're not even involved in? It's like your dad's project. Like, how did that happen?
I was like, while you guys were talking, I was trying to rack my brain about how exactly I met John. And I couldn't remember how. I wasn't sure if he had like emailed me or sent me a message or invited me to go see a Firefall show for free, or drive out someplace and do some treasure shit. I can't remember. But I do get a lot of weird messages from a lot of weird dudes. So I mean, that's always been a constant.
That was the first time I met John. He invited me to Ambrosia. They were playing in Jacksonville, and I was like, who is Ambrosia? Like, oh,
That's what I said when I heard Firefall.
He's like, they had a really good song in the 70s, and he sent me a link. I was like, I've never heard this before. I've never heard this song. But I went, and it was a horrible show. But it was great. John was great afterwards. Like, Dustin, Deidre, him inviting you to that show. Oh, you said it was Valerie June. She's super sweet. But if he invited you to an Ambrosia show, you didn't miss anything. Like, it's great to see John, not great to see them. But after that, he had me take him. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning after the show, after he had gotten everything set up. And he was like, dude, we got to go see the Fountain of Youth. He's like, I've never been to St. Augustine before. I don't know. You're the only person I know down here. Please take me to see the Fountain of Youth. So we drove from Jacksonville. It was probably like an hour and a half from where we were. And we legit got to the gates of the Fountain of Youth at 3 o'clock. We got out of my car, and he got a phone call from the club saying he left his iPad there. And we had to get back in the car, drive all the way back. So all he got to see was the front gate of the Fountain of Youth at 3 o'clock in the morning. And he took that whole trip just for that. He came back a little while later, but it was always a fun anecdote. That was the first time I met John.
I'll share my first time I ever talked to John. So I live in the North Carolina mountains, and he was doing a show in Asheville. And I reached out to him, and I was like, hey, this is shortly after I had met George in person. And I was like, hey, I met George, and I'd love to meet you. And they were both celebrities to me at that point. So I was like, I'd love to come out and, just, have dinner or a beer or just something. And he was like, I don't know who his baseball team is, but his baseball team was on. He's like, I'm watching the blah, blah, blah game and having some beers. No.
Yeah, there were certain times you didn't mess with John, and that was one of those times.
His team was on. So that was a very shortly lived dream of meeting a celebrity. I'll be honest, I've never had the opportunity to meet John in person. So John is still very much a celebrity status for me. And always will be.
Yeah. I've got so many stories going through my head, and I'm not sure what I'm allowed to tell. Oh, God.
Err on the side of not telling them.
Should I tell the one about when I interrupted that thing?
No.
Okay.
No, you should not.
Hear the one from Matt again, where they were digging at the Legion of Honor and finding a gift from Byron Price.
Are you legally allowed to talk about that, Matt?
I don't know.
I don't know what I even said.
What?
Forget it. Yeah.
When you were digging at the Legion of Honor in that one place, not too long
Are we
ago?
talking about the finger?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when you found the finger.
That's no big deal.
Okay.
I mean, the Legion of Honor at one point used to be the biggest cemetery in San Francisco. And then they passed some law that said you can't have a cemetery in San Francisco. So theoretically, they moved all the bodies down to Colma. And in, I don't know, what was it, 2002, when they basically remodeled the Legion of Honor by digging it out and putting a basement under it and everything, they realized they didn't move all the bodies. And that's when it was sort of reclassified a cemetery again in about 2002. Before that, it wasn't. It was a golf course. And we were digging, okay, so where the statue of El Cid is looking, right down into the lawn. It was on the list of one of my places to look at. And we had a groundskeeper there with us, making sure we were not hurting anything. And we peeled back the lawn, and we put a shovel on, a shovel of earth on the ground, on the board, to keep it out of the grass. And I looked at it, looking for like plexiglass shards or something like that. And I'm like, is that a finger? And it was a finger bone, probably, 100 years old. But I mean, it was a finger bone. And we're like, okay, everybody stop. let's put it all back and just not say anything. And, the groundskeeper was like, good, that's a good plan. That's a good plan. I said, great, before we do that, let me probe the ground right here and make sure. So
Found more fingers.
Yeah, or the rest. I'm sure the rest of him's there. So, but yeah.
I gotta ask, was there any did you get a little snack? Was there anything left on the bone?
No. It was. We kind of picked it up in the shovel, and we're going. That is a finger bone, right? That's exactly what that is. That's a finger bone. There was, and it had that look of like antique bone. Like it wasn't bone colored. It was brown, very darkened and aged.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, let's put that back really quietly.
I think that's John Frazier's plan. If anybody ever finds a bone in his park, it's like, oh, just put it back and then never speak of this again.
Yeah. The groundskeeper was like, I'm going to have to do so much paperwork right now. And it's like, nope, it's back. We didn't dig here.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
We had, guys, mind if I read Judy's email?
No,
please go ahead.
This might be a little tough to get through. So we have a friend, part of the community, Judy Moore, who wrote a nice little tribute. I'll just read it real quick. And it's called Tribute to a Fallen Hero. JM, in the hunt for the 13th cask, you and Kit eloquently defined what it takes to be a champion, a living hero, and a fallen hero. You are now among them. You are a champion for being instrumental in designing the exquisite and noteworthy tribute hunt. You are a hero for having stayed the course and allowed us to think on our own. And now you are a fallen hero, as you left us too soon. My deepest thanks to you for your desire to simply challenge people to come together as a community, to entice us to search the world around us, and to learn how to navigate the future from studying the past. You have shown us what our champions and heroes are made of, as you are an example of this very thing. Because of you, we may have a better understanding and an important reminder of what we as humans are capable of in our most glorious and defining moments. Hats off to you, JM. Love, Judy Moore.
Goosebumps.
That was very nice. Actually, we've got a phone call. Some of JM's friends just couldn't do this. They couldn't sit and talk about him. I've got a voicemail from Ben Aysan, if you guys wouldn't mind if I play that real quick as well. And then I've got one from Savril, but we can play that a little later. So I'm going to go ahead and play Ben's voicemail.
This is Ben Aysan, the photographer from The Secret. Never thought it would have a second life. In 2018, I got a very nice email from a guy named John Michaels who was asking me about The Secret and asked me if I wanted to come on the podcast. I couldn't believe that this book had a pair of second legs, but I guess it did. And we immediately bonded. John had incredible passion about this. He really did, and he was very, very enthusiastic. We got to know each other pretty well in a number of phone calls. And he even asked me after the pandemic, when he got back to work, if I would come and maybe he'd give me some seats to a rock concert, maybe Poco, and I would take pictures. I guess we never got to do that. John, wherever you are right now, and I'm sure it's upstairs, I'll see you someday. Okay, take care. You were a great guy, a terrific guy. Just a lot of enthusiasm, and you were just very, very nice to talk to all the time. So rest in peace, John.
So that's Ben Aysan. Everybody loved John, man.
I just had a huge clap of thunder here during that. And I don't know, some people believe in things, some people don't, but I think that was a hell yeah.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Do you want to play so we played Ben's. Do you want me to play Savril's?
Yeah, let's go and play Savrils.
Hey, most of you might know me as Savril or Justin from the first The Secret Milwaukee podcast. John was a very important person in my life, and we got together over the secret. I guess it's a short story that I would like to share. We had ideas of where the Milwaukee cask was, and John at one point found a tree that he was almost 100% certain was where it was, and we had an idea what to do for digging and whatnot. So we decided to go out about 4 a.m. He was going to be lookout, and here I am at 4 a.m. at one point laying in a large dirt hole, just like, is anybody there? No, they're gone. You can go again. It was, we dug for hours, and we would just walk around Lake Park and, have a good time, and, he'd come over to my house and got breakfast and talk more about the secret and stuff that is life. And, I'm going to miss him. And, just talked to him a few weeks ago, and I'm really sad, and, my condolences to his family. Wherever you are, John, rest in peace, my friend, and hopefully all the secrets will be revealed wherever you're at. Love you, man. Bye.
I remember, John used to dig with Savril a lot because they both lived in Milwaukee, and I remember him calling me one time, and he was like, "Dude, I know exactly where the Milwaukee cask is. It's right at this one specific spot in Lake Park, and we're digging it right now." And this was, like Savril said, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, "Dude, you're digging it right now?" He's like, "Well, I'm not. Savril is. I am sitting in the car, but Savril is digging the spot for me right now." He's like, "It's a huge hole." I walked over and I looked at it. But yeah, getting John, John, it's weird, Matt. He dug a hole with you. He dug a hole. Did he dig a hole with you guys, Dustin?
He had to go.
He never dug a hole with me.
He provided a shovel.
Yeah.
He broke the tools.
I dug a hole with him.
I did it.
Yeah, you did.
He never dug with me. I tried. Yeah, where'd you dig that hole, kid? Talk about that.
Between.
Where was that?
I can't remember.
I thought I could catch you off guard.
It's somewhere between Maine and California, I think.
It's at your mom's house.
Asheville.
Yeah.
Between two ferns.
That's
nice.
That's not that helpful.
I could never get him to dig a hole with me. He did a concert in Charleston, and he invited me and my stepdaughter up for 3 days. It was a 3-day festival. Valerie June was playing there. One of my favorite stories with John. John broke Valerie June's banjo. I guess I'm not a banjo guy, but on the inside of a banjo there's a pickup, and he broke it completely. He ripped all the wires off, and he had to solder them back on, but nobody had a soldering iron. And we're he looks at me and he's like, "Do you have a soldering iron?" I'm like, "What, dude? Why would I have a soldering iron at a at a hipster music festival in Charleston?" So he's running around asking all of these hipster dudes, "Do you have a soldering iron?" "I get some weed, no soldering iron." Anyway, so he takes this banjo and he duct tapes the wires back together to try and make it work. Valerie June ends up going on stage and her banjo just breaks. And then I think he blamed it on one of the other guys. But anyway, after that, we went back to the hotel and we got some shovels and we were going to dig. We went to every single park in Charleston. John gave me a tour of everywhere that he didn't think the cask was. And then when we got to White Point Gardens, he was like, "All right, I'm tired. Let's go." Dude, just bring me all the way to Charleston. I got a shovel. I got 4. We can't dig a hole. Came to St. Augustine, still didn't dig a hole. I could never get him to dig a hole with me. It sucked. Oh well. At least Kit got him to.
Well,
in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say with Ben and Savral's message and talking about JM hopefully being in a place where he finally gets those answers he's been searching for, and Kit and JM working together on the tribute. We have a special message from another person who was instrumental in the tribute community, Evan. He put together for JM. Is it? Can you cue that up?
Yeah, you want me to play that now? So,
yeah, I think it kind of falls in line.
So our guests on Zoom, you're not going to be able to see this, but you'll be able to hear it. Everybody else will be able to see it, though.
Yeah, it'll be on the stream, but we won't be able to see it, but you can watch it later if you'd like, but you can hear it.
So here's Evan Hoovler.
What's up, tribute-tears? Anyway, I made this to help us celebrate JM getting to the next step of his journey. Just a puzzle fan. JM was an awesome man. He stuck the 13th cask where the sun don't shine. And no, I don't mean in his butt. Come on, people. Talking about the tribute hunt. Now he's meeting with Byron Price for the first time. And when he meets Price, he'll ask, where the hell you bury all those casks? I need to know because your hunt's become a phenomenon. I like to think Price will say, it's nice to meet you, but there's no way. Cause even though life may end, the hunt goes on and on, on and on. Don't stop searching. Keep probing in that dirt, and through the tribute John lives on. Don't stop searching, even though we're hurting. Through the tribute John lives on. Don't stop searching. Keep probing in that dirt, and through the tribute John lives on. Don't stop searching, even though we're hurting. Through the tribute John lives on. We'll miss you, John.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was
again.
incredible.
Wasn't it?
I love Evan's songs.
Incredible. This guy needs his own TV show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
He
did
does.
make me think. Right now, he's doing a podcast and he's interviewing Byron. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know the lengths he'll go to get a good interview.
If that shows up in somebody's inbox, please share it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, go ahead.
Honestly, I feel like that was a really good closing note, unless anybody has anything else they'd like to share.
One more thing
Dustin.
over here. I
Yeah.
just want to say, like, John was extremely generous with the information that he's gathered over the past decade. And that's something I'll always remember him for. Like, I don't know, for a long time, I'm sure he wanted just to, dig up a cask and have it for himself. But the past probably at least 2 years, he's been more interested in just helping other people. And, that's really commendable. I've kind of adopted that as my own philosophy too. Like, if there's anything I could do to help somebody, if they sent me a message and there's any way I could contribute to them at all, I'm happy to do it. And I think I got a lot of that from John.
You're right. He as far back as I can remember was like, I don't want to dig one up. I want somebody else to dig one up. He would say that quite often. So
you don't find
we'll probably,
people like that.
Probably get one out of the ground again.
Yeah.
So much attention on it.
Next one should be dedicated to him if we're lucky enough to get one. I feel like we can't dig the tribute one up now because Evan told us to keep on searching. So, Kit.
So I think that is an important point. That's an important point to make, though. The tribute is continuing now. For those of you who aren't in the tribute group, the cask has been placed in a very, very respected and very honest. It's been placed essentially with the hunter that John wanted it placed with. They have control of it. The cask is still in play. The solution, the actual full solution, is with a complete separate hunter. The gems, the prizes, there with a third complete separate hunter. It is not anyone in this call. It's not anybody. You would not probably know who they are. They're not moderators anywhere. They're not admins anywhere. They're just people who are supremely trusted. So the hunt continues in John's honor.
I can't help but feel, we spoke earlier about John being the consummate professional. I just can't help but feel that he was so dedicated to making the tribute hut as much as like the original, that this happened. If you could, I deflect with humor, so it's not always appropriate. But that's
you mean made it impossible to find? Is that what you're?
That's what you're.
Well,
somebody had to make the joke.
It's just so much parallel with the original hunt.
Yeah.
Down to this.
Maybe a construction company will get lucky again.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe.
That'd be awesome.
Hey, Kit, did you have anything you want to say before we close out?
Yeah. Man, if it wasn't for, I kind of got into the secret a little bit with my dad working on it, but I never knew what it was like to, do anything that like my dad and Byron did, until, John was like, hey, I want to do another one. And, it's still very special to me that I was able to be a part of something that brought a shit ton of people together. And I hope somebody digs it up someday, and finds it and figures it out. One funny story with John and I had a collector buy a couple of paintings, and so just to be nice, I tossed in a sketch that I did for making the tribute hunt, and I didn't think it had a whole lot of information on it that would disclose location or anything, but I remember I got an email like a day or two later from John. He's like, what is, you sent a sketch out or something? And I was like, yeah, man, I don't know, she's a collector, she's bought a couple. And he was like, all right, whatever, but I'm gonna miss those emails a lot. I feel like I would do some things to, tease him or just get him not upset, but, just poke a little bit. And I'm going to miss talking with him like that for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. So there is a memorial fund that's currently been put together. And Brett, can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, I don't know all the details, but I just want to say what an amazing, George, are you going to say something?
I know all the details.
Okay.
You want me to take that for you?
Let me just take it. But I just want to thank. I saw Gabs and Tristina. I want to say are two of the people, and I just want to thank you. We have an amazing community. That thing grew from 0 to almost $4,000 in like a day or two. Like, that brought tears to my eyes. How much people care, and the fact that you two put that together. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
So yeah, it is super amazing what they did. So Gabrielle and Tristina had an idea to buy a memorial bench for John in Cherokee Park, which is the park most people think the tribute cask is buried in. And then all of the remaining money, everything that's left over from buying that bench that's in the GoFundMe, they're gonna donate to John's family to help with funeral costs, or there's a lot of expenses. So if you can, everywhere that you see this video, there should be a link to the GoFundMe. If you can throw a couple of bucks their way, it would be great. It's a great way to honor John, I think. A bench in a park that he loved. Does anybody have anything else before I close out? Because I'm going to kick you guys out and do the closing on my own.
I just want to say thank you, John Michaels, for bringing us all together.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
Cheers to John.
Here's to you. Here's to you all. And here's to you, JM. Peace.
Take it, George.
Yeah, man. John, over the years, we had some problems in the last couple of years, and I tried my best to fix them. You were one of my best friends, and I miss you. To fucking champions.